up, Team KBA? One Tech Traveler here. This is Last Shelter, and you are joining me in the first hero drop for Season 6. Really excited. There's been a lot of anticipation and excitement finally with the seasonal hero preview that were released from the developers that outlines all of the core main heroes that you can expect in each of the 9 drops for the upcoming season. And with the first 2 weeks having a definitive list of heroes that we can expect, which include the new heroes Lust and Retrograder. So I know a lot of you have been waiting for me to do these hero drops to see what's coming up and my thoughts of what these drops are. So thanks for your patience, and we are going to really dive into the details of this, a little bit more focused around Lust since she is untested, she is new, and again there's a lot of buzz whenever new heroes arrive. So should you be pulling your tickets in this particular group, the rest of them, and then also just, you know, my thoughts on Lust herself. We'll also touch on the super tickets. I like doing a lot around the strategies for, you know, we don't have a lot of tickets to spend week in, week out on getting these heroes, so it's always good to see whether they are worth dropping into or, you know, diving into another, really always depending on what heroes you have, what formations, and how these hero drops are going to add value and not necessarily have a wastage. So you can see all of the details and each of the videos that I'm dropping in my Season 6 hero recruitment timeline tracker. So I'll put the link down below, or check out my website onetechtraveler.com. If you haven't yet, make sure you join Team KBA. Always great to see a growing family of you joining my premier chats, and also getting involved in the comments and showing some love to support me getting these videos out to you as much as possible. And again, if you find my videos useful, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Always helps a lot and means a lot too. So let's get started. These are the 4 heroes that you can expect. They are Lust, who is a shooter hero, damage dealer. Prophet, who is kind of like a support slash like damage dealer. We'll talk about her in a moment. Shadow is a front row defensive evasive type of shooter hero, and then finally Wrath, support vehicle hero. So I think this is a very solid hero drop. The baseline is very high in terms of quality, and you are getting, for the most part, game-changing type of heroes that can really alter an APC and just the overall strength when you line up synergies and the current meta formations. You only want to go into this drop naturally for Lust, and then Wrath. Prophet is an excellent pickup from this group who has nice synergy with other fighters and in mixed formations. So if you can see her sliding in to your APC, this will also be a plus. And then Shadow being that front row defensive alternative to, say, the Koshei, the Sex Machina, Valkyrie. Not necessarily the weakest, but in terms of this excellent crop, he will be the lowest baseline of this group. And Lust is actually very exciting in multiple ways. So first up, she is your damage dealer alongside, say, a Nomad, Hummingbird. You do have alternatives like Rose Noir, Executioner, makeshift back rows like Betrayed. I find that Lust will be more on the higher end. She does provide something different, pretty different actually, from your Nomad and your Hummingbird. So those are the 2 that I kind of see Lust fitting in between, and Nomad being more basic troop attack and Hummingbird being more combat skill based. But I would say Lust is more reliable, or I guess more consistent in her damage output that we'll look at in the moment. Although her damage, while I would say it ranges from medium to high, so not as really high as Hummingbird, who is more of that risky, less consistent type of shooter hero, and then Nomad being a very consistent high damage, but through basic troop attacks, protection to your formation. The biggest one being her skill 8, which is Feather Storm. That is going to provide, she is pretty much the best like anti-confusion counter for a formation. So if you are up against Tech Priestess, up against Hunk, Organic, they all do a confusion that allows an enemy to even hit their own friendly squads and deal the damage to themselves, there is a chance it can still go through. She is the only one to provide that full anti confusion counter. It will provide immunity to each of your hero squad 2 times whenever the enemy tries to inflict confuse. And there's also a guaranteed damage and counter that Lust applies to the enemy. So that'll be 250% damage, which is fine. This is a prep skill, so it cannot be countered, and it is guaranteed to land. And it's going to apply a counter every round to one of the enemy teams. So it's either silence, disarm, suppression, or confusion. Depending if you are going up against more combat skill focused APCs, then silence and suppression, even confuse would be the better one. If it's basic troop attack, then disarm is more helpful, but suppress and confusion generally are like the best forms. Although that isn't going to affect heroes that are protected with a clear-minded clarity, or that just provides immunity to themselves, like Death Rider or Glutton to the back row, or even like Farseer. There's definitely some ways how you can get around her particular skill, but it's really that anti-confusion. It's nice seeing both a very high counter trigger and then also the anti-confuse protection. So that is Featherstorm. A Poison Extraction Blade is decent. The percentage is okay, and it should be reliable enough to execute. It is a combat skill and it targets 2 enemy squads, so it can be countered, but it's going to deal a total of 600% damage to 2 enemy squads and cause them to enter poisonous states, so an additional damage of 150% per round. Not bad. Again, it's more on the reliable side with decent numbers rather than inconsistent high number or high consistency, low damage. And then we get to Feathers of Seduction. Again, it's a combat skill, so 2 combat skills, leaning more towards Hummingbird. This is a 1-turn prep, but it has a 50% chance, so it's more than likely to trigger, and at its maximum it's going to trigger 4 times in a turn 8 battle, and that's going to deal 900% damage, which is very solid as a damage dealer, and that's across 2 enemies. What it also apply is confusion. So you can see here she's very different from Hummingbird and Nomad, more on that status effect and wanting that confusion as part of her damage. So she's not directly doing it. She does decent amounts and triggers, but it's really that confusion part to repel the damage to the enemy for them to take that number. So that is Lust. Now, what do I think of her? I think she's going to be very versatile. I see her playing in a lot of mixed formations. So, for example, it could be fighter formations with Glutton. She's got good synergy with him since his healing is based from turn 4 and on the damage output of the back row. So she would need to be in the back row. But Glutton is going to provide a clear-minded status, so she has full immunity from any kind of counters that allows her to trigger those combat skills, which is super important, and then her being able to heal Glutton. And then you can have any kind of hero in the mid that provides healing across, so it could be Tech Priestess. You can also have Canoness if you are going to, let's say, put her in the back row and then have Lust in the mid. Then you can have different options there. You can go full confusion, which is what I was thinking of: Hunk, Tech Priestess, and then Lust. If you want to go more of a shooter alternative, then you could play Hunk, even Inquisitor, and Lust for the damage stack, and then Hunk with that extra confusion trigger. And also Hunk and Inquisitor having that flammable status for Inquisitor to trigger his full suppression and silence, which is nice. Direct shooter formations, she's a little bit more limited, kind of like Hummingbird, because a lot of them are weighted towards basic troop attacks. So yeah, when it comes to Predator, Nomad, Koshei, they are all focused on basic troop attacks. You can put Wings of Liberty, Deus Ex Machina, which is going to offer that healing, and also a more defensive but we can also see Shadow fits into that mix as well, who is in this drop. Many options with Lust, and if you have space for mixed formations, I think there is a high scope to play around with her. If you want to go straight up damage, then you could even do a Valkyrie, Inquisitor, Lust. I think that'd be interesting. And then vehicle combinations, you can go Kamikaze, Organic, which plays his Confusion. How well she translates in terms of the meta formations will be is left to be seen, but I do highly rate her. I think she's going to again change things up a lot. I like that it also brings Confusion back more into the fore now that we have a more robust set of Confusion skills across different heroes. Now we next have Wrath. Now, Wrath is going to be high up people's list if you have vehicle hero formations, and also if you're coming up against strong vehicle heroes, you'll most likely see Wrath being in there, or top mixed APC formations. Reason being is he has his reflective armor, which is going to negate enemy damage completely once he's able to hit that 9 like charge stack. Whenever a friendly squad receives damage 9 times, is going to trigger this combat skill. Of course, that is based on that combat skill triggering, so it can be countered, but there's a very high frequency of this considering it's the whole squad. And he also has his Shattering Fist, which is a low percentage damage that he will deal to the enemy, but a smaller portion to each of your friendly squad. So you might be thinking, why is he damaging ourselves? That is for that reflective armor, which means that it's going to have a high frequency, and you will just see like a 0 whenever a damage comes in. So very consistent, very effective. And then finally, not only on that, you know, damage negate, like negating damage, it is Thunder Fury. It's a prep skill. You cannot counter this, and this is why Wrath is so good. It's that troop recovery block. So you'll see troop recovery block setups across different heroes, but I think Wrath has the best one. He will apply a straight up minus 25% troop recovery reduction on both our formation and then the enemy. However, from turn 4, the enemy's troop recovery block goes up by 15% per turn, which means by turn 8, there's a 100% troop recovery block, no matter what kind of rate they are doing. It is proportionate to how much they are healing. So over time, they're just not going to heal anything. This works to amazing effect, stacks very quickly, and yeah, you will find this being an excellent counter to very high healing formations like with Canoness or even to Retrograder. Definitely, if you're rocking vehicle heroes, he is one to have. And pairing that with Lust, they can also work. You know, Tech Priestess with Wrath has super high synergy because Tech Priestess heals on a per damage basis. So Wrath hitting all friendly squads and that high frequency means it triggers Tech Priestess's like consistent but generally low number healing rate. Multiply that by the high frequency, then it's actually able to sustain against higher damage compared to her being with other heroes that doesn't buff up the frequency. She's generally low to medium damage, but with Wrath they can sustain more. And then when you have Lust in the back row, then she can play with Tech Priestess on the Confusion as well. So yeah, you can replace your Death Rider, your Huntress in that TP Wrath mix, and you can get them both in. Again, actually, when I think about this hero drop, like there's actually a lot of sense in this, and it also makes it exciting that picking up pretty much any of these heroes, they can all play with each other. So it opens up more options, but you can kind of make a straight up formation from this, or near enough. You might want to replace Shadow, but again, Shadow has a place in this. So Prophet, she is a support hero. She's interesting because she provides more of a damage support for your hero formation, but she also provides like strong damage as well and has nice synergy factors that Lust can take advantage of. So the first one here is Fortune Telling. Is a prep skill, so cannot be countered and activates from the start of battle. She will mark one random enemy and apply a troop recovery block, minus 70%, straight up until the end of battle. Very high and really limits, provided it is going to hit the hero that is dealing healing. If it's not, then yeah, it's ineffective, but that's the randomness of it. But the fact how it is a prep, minus 70%, super high. So really liking that, and can really level the playing field of high healing formations. And then depending on the enemy squad that they target, it's going to apply any of these debuffs. Fighters plus 20% more damage, shooters minus 40% less normal attack damage, and then vehicles minus 30% less skill damage. So this one is interesting for the shooters, especially if you did come up against Prophet using Lust, because she deals on a normal attack and Lust is more combat skill based. Then she kind of overrides this particular skill from Prophets, but you put them together, it's going to be really nice. And again, that's going to combat high healing heroes or formations. Next up is Chains of Fate, and this one is that evolved form of S4 hero Commissar, which by concept is actually really good, but just poorly executed with Commissar. Prophet is done right and really good. So 50% chance, again half a chance of it activating, and you know, it could activate every turn, you never know. But yeah, 50% chance, really nice. And what does it? It links another enemy squad to the damage that the main enemy squad receives, and it's going to receive a beefy 50%, not 50% damage. Is actually half of the damage that the main enemy squad receives. So they receive, let's just say 100, then the secondary enemy squad linked will get 50. So this is super strong, and again, it's a combat skill, bear that in mind. And she has really high range, so she can really be in the mid or the back row, adds to her flexibility, and also against focus like damage dealing formations with Huntress, who likes to target wherever you position her. And yeah, great support for a damage dealer to deal more. Finally, her Soul Bombardment. This is also which helps with that synergy. She gains a charge for every time a friendly casts a combat skill. So you can see more combat skill heroes, the quicker this is able to charge, and it deals 750% to one enemy and is suppressed. So actually very high damage, and this can trigger frequently if you have heroes that are doing combat skills, which Lust is more leaned up to. So in terms of hero synergy, Prophet pairs excellently with Lust and is super exciting. Yeah, you can either put a Canoness, you can put TP, Glutton for more of a fighter weighting, and yeah, you got full flexibility. So that is Prophet. Again, highly rated, top to even if you are getting the most out of her with synergy, because she can make a big difference and really up, you know, the damage, but also provide super strong kind of level playing field effects against high healing, for example. And then finally we get to the Shadow. So again, I kind of mentioned he's like the lowest baseline in this hero drop, but I do think he is super solid. His skills are finally triggering much better, and he is more on the evasive type. So he's similar to Deus Ex Machina, doesn't have consistent healing, but his final ability, I think it's called Faith Guard, does have a troop recovery of minus 80% if it lands on that. There's two other skills that it could reach, which we'll look into a moment. But Shadow can also be that front row alternative, or if you don't have any front row shooters, to put with Lust. So yeah, if you don't have any usable or front row shooter hero, then actually the risk of Shadow in this hero drop is not so much, because he is going to be useful in formation building. Not necessarily the best when it comes to front row shooters. yeah, still kind of like Koshie, Deus Ex, Wings of Liberty, like those guys are actually still pretty good as a front row shooter. Shadow has a high frequency for his evasion. I like the setup and it does work and stack quickly. Without the trace, it is a prep, so it cannot be negated. Every time he is damaged, receives a damage, it increases his evasion rate by 25%. When it does, then it is cleared. It does start with a 10% base rate. Fusion Strike is a combat skill. 40% chance to trigger. When it does, it siphons might and resistance from one enemy squad. Applies that to 2 of the friendly squads. I imagine it's evenly, so 30-30. It's a 100% chance to deal 250% bonus damage. So that is an additional damage buff on top of what basic troop attacks normally deal. So you can see he gets a little bit more out on high frequency basic troop attacks. He is self-sufficient. You can place him in front of Lust, but he will work well in basic troop setups like for Nomad, Rose Noir, pair them with Predator. You are good to go. And then finally we have Faith Guard. So this was the troop recovery that I mentioned after a successful evasion. It is out of 3 skills and a 33% chance for each. If it's not troop recovery, then it is reduced damage, or depending on the frequency of your evasion rate, then this could actually work pretty quickly. Even though it can go up to 100% guaranteed evasion, it could trigger from the 10%. It does heighten the risk from pulling in this if of course you do have any of these heroes maxed. Again, only pull if you really see worth of getting Lust and Wrath, but actually profit becomes higher up if you don't have her. You do of course want a good number of tickets, so if you see them being a core part of what your main APCs you are building, then go for this hero drop. If you are kind of developing several and you have other heroes that you can develop more, I would say it's a tough one, because the first 2 weeks are where you're most likely to get the best chance of getting these heroes. Lust does appear in week like hero drop 5, so the 5th week, and that's your second chance of getting Lust, but she is in a hero group of 7, so this is 4, which means if you're really itching for that damage dealer of Lust, and maybe you already have Prophets, Wrath or Shadow and want a few copies, then absolutely go for this hero drop. And then you're gonna have to skip the other pulls, and depending how RNG and copies play out, then you can dip into the Lust 1 month later. Otherwise, yeah, if you're kind of like me, so I have 313 tickets based on an 80, that's roughly 4 SX heroes. It's not going to do me much, so I'm not really going to get anything usable by even using all of these tickets here. I could do more long-term building, however I do not have any of these heroes. I don't have any copies, which means, you know, unless I'm extremely lucky landing one multiple times, at least you want 3 copies, they're not really going to be in a usable state. I'm better off working on other heroes that I want to focus on, or that are more developed so that they can be usable, and then potentially, depending on the other heroes that Lust is paired with, then she could be the byproduct. So thanks a lot. If you found it useful, give it a big thumbs up. Share it with your Discord friends, Alliance buddies. Always helps me to know that there are more out of you that are enjoying my content, so it gives me, you know, more energy to keep doing these videos, even though stuff are very busy around me. But yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in, Team KBA. I'll see you in the next one. That wraps up the video. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't yet, join the Team KBA community by subscribing to my YouTube channel, and check out onetechtraveler.com for more stories, articles and videos around tech, travel and gaming. I'll see you in the next one, but until then, keep being awesome. Peace.